Hey, basketball fans. Today we're going to do a show about DFS lineups for tomorrow, Wednesday, November 13th. I'm bringing on our fantasy DFS basketball expert, Shad. Although expert might be stretching it more like degenerate gambler. No, it's not fair. So Shad's going to come on. We're each going to set our lineups, try and talk through some of the decisions we had to make to help prime you for the games tomorrow. You should come join us. We're playing on DraftKings, so we're using DraftKings pricing. But first, beer. Tonight I'm drinking an Imperial Maple Milkshake Stout. I don't know if the camera focused on that one. By Rochester Mills Beer Company. And the reason I picked it will unfold later when we're setting our lineups. But now I'm going to bring Shad in. All right, Shad, welcome to the show. We've got 7 games for tomorrow, November 13th. The matchups, well, I guess, what is it you consider when you want to look at the matchups? Are you thinking about just the teams? Or are you thinking about what?
I'm mainly considering pace. I want a high up and down game, not a slow drag it out. So
Right.
At that point, then it's just really, there's a couple games that kind of open my eyes. There's a couple games I plan to stay away from.
Okay. So you're talking about pace. Looking at the lineup, the slowest pace team of all of them is Orlando with a 99.5, which also makes slow pace and good defensive efficiency kind of go hand in hand, which makes them, they're like with Utah there as one of the slowest around.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing Orlando is one of your stayaways. What else were you thinking about for either yay or nay?
In terms of just the games, mainly there's 2 that I really had to try to lock into, and that's the Clippers and Houston. Houston plays no defense.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, considering you have the no defenders of Russell Westbrook and James Harden. And then I also enjoyed the Golden State LA.
Okay.
I think there's some potential in that Golden State game from the Golden State side, and I've kind of just due to expense really just felt that game was good for value.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Golden State's got a faster pace of play. The other day on the show, I took the Hellinger pace of play stat and then the defensive efficiency and found the average for it. In targeting, here are the fastest 5 teams and the weakest 5 defenses. And if I put that together to bring a number, and those teams were New Orleans, who's not playing, Golden State, who's playing, Houston, who's playing, Memphis, who's playing, Washington, who are all playing tomorrow. So it's kind of a fun day for us to kind of kick off with this. Our lineups sound like they're going to be pretty different, though, because I mostly stayed away from those 2 games. I understand your logic, but it's going to create some different lineups for us, because something I was considering is that the Clippers are it's a game 1 of a back-to-back. So they won't be tired, but I was eyeing Kawhi, and I didn't know, are they going to play him completely and sit him tomorrow? I didn't know if that had been out, or if, the game gets out of hand one way or the other. Do they rest him to try and play him back-to-back? So that just made me a little nervous, specifically with targeting Kawhi. And then the Lakers are playing tonight, so they're in game 2 of a back-to-back tomorrow.
Yep.
And so when I was eyeing LeBron, I went, oh, AD didn't... I don't think AD played tonight. I'm pretty sure he was out. We're recording... I don't even know if the game even happened yet. Tonight's game for the Lakers. So the big names at least kind of scared me off for it. But we had the same kind of logic. We're talking about the back-to-backs, I should mention, for the viewers at home, that Portland will also be in game 2 of a back-to-back tomorrow. And Philly is also in game 2 of a back-to-back, but they're going against Orlando, so because of pace of play, I think you and I were both kind of not super interested in attacking that game anyway.
Correct.
So with that said, where did you start? Where were you looking first?
Actually, the first guy I wanted to get involved is DAngelo Russell.
Okay.
I wanted to go for him. If you look at his stats as of late, really kind of taking over for Steph with Steph being out, and he's had a lot, going back to last year. There's no Clay, and Draymond Green has been suspended for 5 games, or he was out for 5 games. Not sorry.
Sorry.
So used to him being suspended.
No, he tore a ligament in his finger, was out for 5 games.
Yes.
Came back last night and got ejected from the game. So he did.
Yeah. And he's really just been carrying that team in terms of points, and in general, it's not just points that he's giving you. He's giving you about 7+ assists, and then 1 to 2 steals. And he's getting you 30 points. So I went with him. And he's, DAngelo Russell's always one to stand behind the three-point line and really jack up some of them. So, he was one guy that I really looked at starting my lineup with.
Yeah, it makes sense. His last game was against Utah, and he got 50 fantasy points on DraftKings. And Utah is one of the slower teams, like we talked about, for the idea of a stay away. And if he was able to put up 50 on them, there's a good chance in a faster pace play. Although Lakers have a faster pace, but they've got a pretty good defense too. Although how much of that is AD, which doesn't necessarily affect DAngelo.
Yep.
Cool. Well, my start off didn't work at all. My first thought was I wanted to attack Portland, specifically because of personnel. The Portland doesn't have anyone who can guard a forward. I literally just don't think there's anyone who could, their defense funnels down to Whiteside, but that means he can't go out and try and guard any forward, and they just don't have anyone on the team for that. So when I saw Toronto go against them, I was like, great, I'm going for OG. And I went, and OG is out. And I did not realize that. So my very first place I went, OG got like an eye contusion. So he's out for the game, and he won't play. So then I just kind of followed that rabbit hole and ended up with a cheaper player to start mine. So I went with Rondé Jefferson as my first go-to because I wanted to get a forward on Toronto to attack at Portland, and I just went, cool. Well, in every lineup I'm going to have some kind of bargain basement players. So I just Rondé Jefferson's the next man up. I plugged him in at 4,500, and then even though he's only averaging like 15 fantasy points, I figured I'll go from there. Gamble on the upside. His last game, when the injury happened and he filled in, he got 28 fantasy points. So if he can do that at 4,500, I wouldn't hate it.
Oddly enough, he is in my lineup too.
There we go.
Looking at him, Rondé Jefferson has always been a really stat stuffer. He's not gonna be the guy that's gonna get you 20, 30 points, but he's gonna get the rebounds. He's gonna die for the steals. And you look at they've just now started inserting him into the lineup. So I really his first game, obviously, he's played 3 games this season. And just like you would say, they just played the Clippers. He got 28 fantasy points, 9 points, 9 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, 3 steals. So he's definitely, for the value, he was there, and I was. That's what I needed too.
Right on. So I then, not immediately, but kind of lost my mind and took like all of Toronto's front court, which might be a terrible strategy, but that was why the beer for today I picked the maple. So so I was like, well, if OG's out, I think I'm going to pay up for Pascal, and I'm going to go get Pascal Siakam and get another forward because the same idea of they just can't really guard a forward, and then jumping way ahead to kind of those last second moves when you got to fit someone in under the budget.
Yep.
I ended up with, I've actually never need to say it, Boucher? Chris Boucher? Boucher?
Boucher. I think it's Boucher.
Boucher? Yeah. We're going to have to edit
Well,
this
we
out.
could just be both butchering it.
So he's a backup center for Toronto, but it was just kind of okay because so Gasol's playing, but Serge Ibaka is also out.
Yep.
So I was just like, all right, well, if OG's out and Serge is out, I'm just going to try and gobble up kind of cheap minutes. And he was 4,300, and again, it was just like when you get down to 4,300, it's almost free. And I had to I had to get some people down there so I could fit other people in. But that's probably not going to work out great to have that much Toronto all centered in the front court. But that's what I did.
If there's 3 games, I get it.
Yeah, but there's 7 games.
There's 7 games, and we are, avoiding a couple of them. But, kind of going along the line that you were talking about. I mean, that's kind of the reason why I went with Hollis Jefferson, with Serge Ibaka being out. I think he's kind of going to be eating up some of those minutes at the power forward because they like to play. I know Ibaka backs up Gasol, but they do like to play him at power forward as well.
Yeah, cool. So where else did you go? I kind of jumped ahead with some of my guys just because we started talking about Toronto.
In terms of, there was two guards that I really went after, and then from there I kind of like, you always look for those bottom basements. So
Yep.
The Clippers versus Houston. Go with the guy that really can just score points. So I went with Lou Williams.
Yep.
I felt like if, you look at Houston, Lou Williams can easily blow by James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook doesn't play any D. If anything, he's more has his back to his defenders just to try to grab the rebound.
Your hate for OKC is showing so much.
Yeah.
The Dallas fan in you is just bashing Westbrook. It doesn't matter that he's on Houston.
But I mean, you look at Lou Williams' last couple games. He's really been turning it on. I guess ignore the last one, even though he still put up 34 fantasy points. But he's just a point scorer for you. And in that game, I think it's going to be 130 versus, I think it's going to be a high 130 or, maybe a low 130 for both teams. So you look at it, and 2 games ago he put 46 points up against Portland, and then it was 58 points against Milwaukee. I think he's just that, he's Lou Williams. He's the 6th man off the bench. There's nobody in that second. The thing to watch out for that team now is with Paul George coming back, someone's going to move from that first unit. So I'd be curious to see if that impacts Lou Williams at all. In terms of if that, I'm trying to think who's been Harrell.
So Harrell's the big man that they play kind of the pick and roll game with it. I'd be surprised if they don't keep them together, whatever that. I mean, obviously I don't have any in with the coaching staff, but that, they had a whole season of that last year, and it feels like it's just almost like the potential if they wanted to do like hockey subs of just like, okay, now here's our second unit, and they're going to play totally different than our primary unit, and that was kind of how last year went without the stars. So
and the good thing behind that is you plug in Harrell in there, and now he's going to get you even another stat outside of just his point scoring that he does. So I went with him.
I had Lou Williams as well, and then the same idea: pace of play, no defense so far, at least out of Houston, all that stuff. And then also when I noticed the back-to-back, I thought if they try and limit minutes, if they aren't going to be sitting guys in the next game, they probably won't be limiting Lou's minutes, at least not for this. And so I thought there was even a possibility that, like, if Kawhi got, 28 minutes, but not more than that or something like that, depending on how the score goes. I imagine it's going to be a good game, and they probably won't sit him early, but again, I don't know. All of this is just our educated guesses.
Yeah. And then the second guard I went after was, I guess he's more of a small forward shooting guard, Andrew Wiggins.
Okay.
They are going up against San Antonio, but this is not the same San Antonio team of the past. I mean, they're giving up 112 points a game. They're not keeping teams, yes, they've still got that slow pace. on their offensive side, but I don't think this is the defensive team that they used to be. And
Yeah.
Andrew Wiggins is, it's almost like he decided that I learned how to play basketball again. Um, at the last couple of years, I've had him on I think it was one of my fantasy leagues, and it's frustrating because all he was doing was points, and he's actually contributing more with rebounds and assists
Yeah.
this year. You look at his last game; he got 52 points in DraftKings, and then 3 games ago he got 63. And so with that, I felt like that would be a good game for him to take over. And so that was my second guy, or third guy that I really went after.
Cool. So, couldn't quit Toronto, and I went and got Fred VanVleet. So I have 4 Toronto players on a 7-night slate. But VanVleet's been playing well, and he's been starting anyway, but Lowry's also out. And again, it was just like, I probably overdid it. I almost wonder if I should tinker later. But with just like 3 injuries opening up minutes, and Nick Nurse was already playing a pretty tight rotation there anyway, where it just feels like Portland's on the game 2 of a back-to-back. Toronto's had a night off. They've got a bunch of injuries. Like, it's possible they're just going to get a bunch of run, and minutes equals the ability counting stats. And so I just kind of piled on. Although it doesn't feel good. It feels like I'm upset with my money and just giving it away to DraftKings.
I am actually I'm not too dissatisfied with that. I mean, I think I do agree with the I think he's, or VanVleet. I think he is definitely going to be there for it, and especially in that game. McCollum or Dame.
Yeah, they're not stopping him.
Yeah. So I like that.
So that he was 7,100, and then I, opposite Wiggins, I took DeMar DeRozan in that matchup at 7,000, thinking that, well, Wiggins has been getting other stats. San Antonio's playing up in pace of play a little bit to Minnesota, and Wiggins wasn't going to be stopping DeRozan in the mid. Like, I was not worried about like lockdown defense from Wiggins on DeRozan. And Karl Anthony Towns has been like a monster lately, but he's also been shooting a bunch of threes and stuff like that, so he's been out a little bit further from the rim. And DeMar, is all mid-range, like he's not a guy out there shooting threes or anything. So I was just thinking, hopefully it's more open. Some of it was also budget, but I was trying to get upside of like, okay, look at the pace of play. Minnesota's low on defense. Like I said, when I took they weren't in the top 5 when I'm reaching up here because the screen's up here. Minnesota's got one of the fastest pace of plays in the league, and their defense is like middle of the pack. But when you combine those two things, it made them like the 6th average score when I took the 100 numbers through. So I kind of wanted to try and go against Minnesota with someone.
Yep. My next one at 6.9 or 6.9, I went with Devonte Graham.
Okay.
Charlotte. I remember watching him when he was at Kansas, destroying my Texas Longhorns. It was always brutal. But he's a point scorer. But he's also got great vision. He's going to give you the assists. He's going up against a, I feel, fairly weak guard situation. I like Ja Morant, but I think he's still in that learning curve. At this point, I felt Devonte Graham at 6'9" was a good value with that.
Yeah, I mean, Memphis has one of the fastest pace of plays and one of the weakest defensive efficiencies right now. They are right now my favorite league pass team to watch. Seriously, Memphis, I can't pull myself away from watching Memphis right now. They are incredible.
I mean, they're just so young.
That's separate from, exactly. They're young, they run. But that pace of play should play well. I couldn't get anyone from Charlotte into my lineup. because I was so busy taking Toronto guys. But I looked at it. I wanted to play someone from Charlotte, and it just didn't end up happening. So we got your guards. What else do you have for your forwards?
So for forward, at 5'3", I went with Jae Crowder.
Yep.
He's one of those 3 and D guys who's really kind of, he's got one of those games that he's going to fill his stats. He's been having, he had a pretty good game against Dallas, but that's his old team. So I kind of like to, I see him like in a 28 point, fantasy point range, where he's going to get you 9, 10 points, probably 6 or 7 rebounds. And then he'll get you some assists as well as steals. I think he's averaging right now at least 2 steals a game. And you might get a sporadic block in there.
Yeah, that's where I think his ceiling really, if you get lucky, because you get every steal and block's worth 2 points for the DraftKings scoring. So if you can get a 3 or 4 steal night, like you get one of the higher nights that, he's averaging 2 steals a game, but if you get one of the higher steal nights, which with Charlotte, it's not crazy to think that there could be some loose balls on the floor that all he's got to be is the person who grabs it and count as a steal.
Especially with Rozier right on the point.
Yeah, I'll take any excuse to bash him. I'm just not a fan.
But I also did stay with that game for another player. And he's a power forward center eligibility, but he's really just power forward. I can't see this guy playing center. PJ Washington from Charlotte. Okay. And I think he's he's really surprised a lot of people, especially being a rookie. You look at him, he's averaging more than double-digit points a game, getting you about 5 rebounds a game. He has some nights where he'll get you 8 to 7, and then he's also giving you a couple assists. Randomly, you might get a block, but it's very few far in between. And then he's really one of those guys that's going to get you some steals. Last game he had 4 steals. 3 games ago he had 5 blocks. Come on, he's not going to do that because I think every other game he's gotten you basically 0. But yeah, I mean he's another guy that has been on my really rookie watch list itself. So.
All right, so you got PJ Washington as a pseudo center. I went out and actually did get Charlotte's center. So I went and got Cody Zeller. Okay. So he hasn't been doing much this year, but last game he did well. He had a good game. He got 35 fantasy points in DraftKings scoring. It was 24 points and 7 rebounds. I'd love it if that happened again. I'm not sure it will, but he was the last man I plugged in.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
I was just kind of plugging in the big men, and I had exactly 5,400 left. It was him and Bouchard. I plugged those 2 guys in when I had okay, you can pay around 5,000, 5,500 per guy. And I kind of had to do that, split the baby of, okay, if I want this guy, I always feel like every lineup, football, basketball, whatever, my last 2 players turns into a teeter-totter system where I'm okay, here's who I want. Oh, I can't quite stomach that. Okay, I got to bring down this price a little to bring this price up a little and hope that I don't have to, I don't have enough hair to pull out. So that's where I go, I don't want to rework the whole lineup. These guys just have to fit somehow. So Cody Zeller was that guy, same idea. Memphis is playing fast pace, not great defense. Just hoping it gets, that fast of a pace. If he can get a bunch of rebounds, then, hopefully he'll pay for himself.
Yeah. Is that your last guy?
I've got one more.
I do too. And I love this guy.
Go for it.
I love his name. He's actually, and I always butcher it, but I want to say it's Rui Hachimura.
Oh, all right.
He's another one of those guys for Washington. He's getting a ton of minutes. Going up against Boston, I think he's going to end up playing it against
Tatum.
Tatum, yep. He's really athletic. Last game he got 37 albeit against Cleveland, but he got 37 fantasy points, scored 21, and then the scary night being a rookie, the game before he got you 11 fantasy points with 0 points scored. You know, I really thought that, especially against Tatum, I think that he'll be able to kind of bully Tatum a little bit. He's a little bit bigger than him. But that is kind of who I went as my last, I had 4.7 left, and he was a guy that I went for.
Well, my last guy is in the same game on the other side. So I went Marcus Smart.
Okay.
I was looking at, and it's probably maybe too granular. Like, this is where the pace of play can maybe lead you astray a little bit. I was thinking about trying to get one of the big men from Washington, and then I was just looking, going, well, Boston's playing up in pace of play to Washington, so maybe I could try and grab someone on the Washington side. And so I went with Marcus Smart, just hoping for some of those defensive stats. Again, they weight the steals and stuff. He's only averaging a steal a game, so I'm not expecting like anything crazy. But I was just kind of hoping for the best, that he's not going to like hurt me anywhere with massive amount of turnovers or anything like that. So if he could get some stats, but it was also kind of, I wasn't emotionally attached to this play. It was kind of more of working the numbers of the pace of play and everything like that, of like, this feels like the smart play, no pun intended. And so then I just kind of landed on Marcus Smart for it. But if I were to wake up tomorrow and say, I've got way too many Toronto players, I might change that around, like Smart and a Toronto player, and just try and even out the money a little bit. Because at 5,800, like, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. Him and Cody Zeller are my only like kind of middle of the pack guys. Everyone else is higher in the $7,000 or like down in the $4,000.
Yeah, there was one guy that if I was to set up another lineup, I definitely would take him. We've already mentioned him just a minute ago. Tatum. Coming off a 1-18 game, I just feel like he's gonna kind of, they're letting him have his shots. I don't think he's gonna go 1-18 again. And he's been averaging about 30 fantasy points a game, I believe. When I last looked, I know he's consistently getting his shot up. And with having Gordon Hayward injured, now he's going to be really a focal point. Somebody's got to help Kemba score. But no, I think if and I'm kind of looking at single player lineups that I probably want to go enter in another one. But he would probably be the other guy that I didn't play that I would look at adding.
Yeah, I wonder where Tatum is in the tiers game mode, right? I was only looking at the classic mode for our chat, but depending on what tier they have Tatum in after having a down game last time, that feels like the opportunity to maybe kind of strike while the iron's hot if they have him kind of priced a little bit down based on the matchup and just what he's coming off of.
Yeah, I mean, he's had one game. Actually, he still put up 22.5 points, going 1 for 18.
Yeah, he only scored 5 points. But he hasn't had another game in the 20 fantasy points. Everything else has been above 30 out of the last 10, which is the entire season.
If you think about it, like, if you take out 2 games, he's averaging 35 plus. He's had one game where he had 32 fantasy points. And
yeah, if you take out the 2, he's even higher than that, right? Because then his low is 36. Yeah. Well, now it seems like we both should have had Tatum in our
I know, and I of course chose the guy who's going to be guarding Tatum, but that's just why I make multiple lineups. And
well, maybe we do that. Maybe DeRozan's coming out for me, and a Toronto player changes, because DeRozan's $7,000 versus Tatum's 7,500.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. These are our lineups. Maybe everyone else can listen to this and do smarter than we did and get Tatum in their lineup. Cool. Well, I will let you go. Good luck tomorrow. I sent you an invite for the one for the daily dollar single entry.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's where you created the lineup or not. And then if anyone else is watching wants to join us, go ahead on there. Maybe I can figure out how to set up a league for fun for any viewers to join us for other low stakes. Just kind of shoot the shit entries. Probably not today, although it'd be cool if you watched it today and hit us up and wanted to join us. But if not, for future entries, because we're going to try and do this every week and keep coming at you guys with some DFS lineups. Cool. Thanks for joining me, Shad.
Yep.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Have a good night.
You too.